All right, let's get right into it. We're going to peel back the label on some brands you know, brands you probably grew up with. But behind the happy logos and the sweet, nostalgic feelings, there's often a pretty shocking history, one that's tangled up in one of the darkest conflicts in human history. You know those brands that just feel like childhood? The ones that make you think of good times, of fun, of family? Now, what if I told you that for some of them, if you just smudge the surface a little bit, you'd find something ugly? We're talking about war crimes literally baked into their DNA. I mean, we are surrounded by these things every single day. They're just part of the furniture of our lives. They're meant to feel simple, easy, and familiar. And that familiar, friendly face, it's been very, very carefully constructed. But what if that's all it is? A face, a facade? What if the fun, bubbly fizz in your favorite soda, or the cute, friendly curves of that car you see everywhere, what if they weren't born out of some happy-go-lucky invention, but were actually forged in the fires of war? So let's start with a taste we all know, a brand that basically screams fun and fruity. Let's talk about Fanta. And, well, its surprisingly bitter backstory. When you see a glass of Fanta being poured, you think summer, parties, right? It's just a sweet, orange, bubbly drink. It's this global symbol of just carefree fun. But the original Fanta? Yeah, it was anything but. So here's how it went down. Back in the 1930s, Coca-Cola was a huge deal in Germany, super popular. But then World War II kicks off and suddenly an Allied trade embargo slams the door shut. No more Coke syrup. The German branch had a choice to make, either close up shop or get real creative with whatever they could get their hands on. So their creative solution was to invent a totally new drink just to keep the lights on. But this new drink? It wasn't made from delicious oranges. Oh no. It was made from what were basically industrial leftovers. Scraps like whey, which is the gunk left over from making cheese, and apple pomace, the mashed up fibers from cider presses. That murky, bizarre mix, that was the very first Fanta. So Fanta was a product of wartime scarcity, of just making do. But what happens when it's not about a lack of resources, but about the state itself driving a brand's creation? Let's switch gears and hit the road to look at another massive global icon. From a fizzy drink to a hard truth. Okay, the Volkswagen Beetle. We all know it. It's the symbol of the 60s counterculture, right? Road trips, freedom, flower power. It's become this icon of peace and love. But where it came from? It's the exact opposite of that. You see, Volkswagen literally means the people's car. And this wasn't some brilliant idea from an engineer in his garage. No, this was a project pushed from the very top. It was championed by Adolf Hitler himself as a way to create an affordable car for the German people. And the contrast here is just staggering. The image they sold was a happy family getting their first car, a symbol of fun and freedom. The reality? The factories that built these cars ran on forced labor. Thousands upon thousands of people taken from concentration camps were used to build them. That little car, that symbol of freedom, was literally built by slaves. Now, these aren't just a couple of isolated, shocking stories. They're actually part of a much bigger pattern. They show us what happens when war becomes the main engine of an economy and how industry changes to serve it. There's a name for this. It's called wartime industrial adaptation. Think about it. A war slams a giant wall down in the middle of your supply chain. You can't get your normal parts or ingredients, so what do? The whole factory has to retool and learn to process whatever it can find, even if that's literal garbage. It's all about survival and turning a profit, no matter the cost. And the other, much darker side of this? Forced labor economies. This is the point where a regime stops seeing people as citizens and starts seeing them as a resource to be used up. Human beings are treated like coal or iron ore, marched out of camps and fed into the giant industrial machine as if they were just disposable cogs. And that really brings us to the key idea here. Capitalism has receipts. But these receipts, they don't just show dollars and cents. They show the real cost, the human cost, a cost paid in suffering and exploitation, hidden away on the balance sheets of history. So, okay, why does any of this history matter today? Because these aren't just spooky stories from the past. This stuff casts a really long shadow, a shadow that touches our lives right here, right now. See, these legacies, they aren't trapped in a museum somewhere. They are sitting on the shelves of your supermarket. They are in the cars driving on your street. We are, whether we know it or not, living with and consuming these stained legacies every single day. And that leaves us with a really tricky question, doesn't it? When you reach for that product on the shelf, does knowing where it came from change what it's worth to you now? Once you've seen the full, ugly receipt, what's our relationship and what's our responsibility to these brands today?